They say the Smokies breathe, that the trees lean in just a little closer when you're not looking, and that sometimes, late at night, the mountains remember you. I used to think that was just campfire nonsense, stuff tourists told each other to feel brave. But after what happened during my third year as a ranger, I know better now. It started with a call just after 2 o'clock a.m. My radio crackled in the dead silence of the ranger station. "Tom, this is dispatch. We've got a report of strange whistling noises from campsite. C-17. Couple of campers. Say it's been going on for an hour. Might be pranksters. C-17. Of course. That site always gave me the creeps. It sat in a dense patch of forest, where the fog never really lifted, and the wind didn't move quite right. I'd been out there plenty of times before, patrolling, checking permits, responding to the usual drunken campers, but I never stayed there longer than necessary. I always had the feeling that something was listening. I sighed, strapped on my gear, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped into the darkness. The forest was unusually still. No wind, no bugs, no owl calls. Just the sound of my boots crunching against the wet underbrush and the low hum of my own breath inside my ears. The hike took about 20 minutes. When I arrived, the two campers were waiting outside their tent, wide-eyed and whispering like kids who'd just seen the boogeyman. The guy stepped forward. "We heard whistling, Ranger. Like, at first we thought it was someone messing around, you know? But then it got weird." "Weird how?" I asked, shining my light around. "It was copying us," the girl said. Her face was pale, and her fingers trembled. I was humming a tune while making food. An hour later, we hear it, same melody off, in the woods, but wrong, like it was trying to remember the notes but didn't know how. That gave me pause. I knew what animals sounded like. I'd been through enough shifts to recognize wind, coyotes, even drunk backpackers. But this sounded like something else entirely. Still, protocol was protocol. I told them to stay put and radioed in my position. "Copy that," dispatch replied. "Let us know if you find anything." I walked the perimeter, flashlights slicing through the dark like a blade. The trees loomed like giant skeletons, their bare limbs clawing at the sky. Then, from somewhere deeper in the woods, I heard it. A whistle. Simple. Just 4 notes. Faint, but close enough to freeze me in place. It was the exact tune I had been whistling to myself earlier, while cleaning the coffee pot. I swung my light toward the sound. Nothing. My heart started to thump in my chest. I called out, "This is Ranger Tom Alvarez. If someone's out there, this isn't funny. Step out and identify yourself." Silence. Then, another whistle. Louder. Closer. It came from the left. No, behind me. No, somehow both. I turned in a slow circle, trying to pinpoint the direction. My breath started to fog in front of me, even though it wasn't that cold earlier. That's when I heard something I'll never forget. It whistled my name. Not in a cartoonish way, not like some clown playing a trick. It sounded like someone trying to reconstruct my name from memory. Syllable by syllable, whistled through what I can only describe as wet teeth. I backed up a step, gripping the flashlight tighter, suddenly aware of how alone I was. The trees seemed to bend inward, shrinking the clearing around me. I turned to get back to the campers, only to see something tall move between the trees. Just a flicker, a shadow, but the shape was all wrong. its limbs too long, body slightly hunched, like something mimicking human form, but not getting it quite right. I blinked and it was gone. I started toward where I thought the campsite was, but quickly realized I turned around somehow. The trail I came from wasn't behind me anymore. There were no familiar landmarks, just a mess of trees that all looked the same. Panic started to creep in. I took a deep breath and forced myself to move slowly, to focus. I'd taken night hikes before. I knew how easy it was to get disoriented, but I also knew this was different. It wasn't just me being lost. Something wanted me to be lost. That's when the whistling came again, this time directly in my left ear. I spun, flashlight shaking in my hand, and found nothing. No person, no animal, no path, just black trees and fog that seemed to thicken the deeper I looked. I started walking. I didn't care which direction anymore. I just needed to move, to get out. I walked until my legs burned and my lungs stung in the cold air. I was sure I was making progress until I found myself back at the exact same clearing I'd just left. The same broken log, the same cluster of rocks. Something was playing with me. That's when I heard the third whistle. Low, off-key, guttural. It was trying. Again, trying to get it right. Then, just outside the beam of my flashlight, I saw something emerge. Not fully, just enough to make my brain short-circuit. Its body moved like it had too many joints. Its skin hung in loose folds, like it had borrowed it. And its face, if you could call it that, had no eyes. Just a slit of a mouth, curled in what I now realize was supposed to be a smile. I ran. Branches whipped my face. I slipped, fell, got up, kept running. The whistling followed. Sometimes near, sometimes far. But it never stopped. It was like it lived in the trees themselves. Eventually, I tripped over a root and slammed into the ground. My flashlight skittered away. In the faint moonlight, I saw bare feet, dirty, long-toed, twisted, step in front of me. I blacked out. When I woke up, it was dawn. Birds chirped overhead like nothing had happened. My head throbbed, my palms were scraped raw, and I was nearly a mile from the campsite. Back at the station, I didn't tell anyone what really happened. Just said I'd gotten turned around in the dark and lost radio contact. They accepted it. We'd all had close calls. 2 days later, those campers checked out without saying a word to anyone. Left the park early. They never filed a report. But a week later, we got a call about 3 missing hikers. Last seen near the same area, campsite C-17. We found their tent, still standing, their supplies untouched. What we didn't find was them. Just a piece of canvas tied to a tree near the river, like a flag. On it, drawn in what looked like ash and blood, was a crude symbol, a stick figure with long limbs, and an open circle where the mouth should be. We called in search and rescue. Nothing turned up. That was 6 years ago. I still work here. I still patrol. But I don't go near C-17 anymore. The new rangers sometimes laugh when they hear the old stories. The folklore of the Cherokee forest spirits that lure you off trail, mimicking your voice or your loved ones to draw you deeper into the dark. But when one of them hears a whistle at night, faint, familiar, just beyond the trees, they stop laughing. I tell them the same thing every time, no matter what it sounds like. Don't follow the whistle. I took the lookout point assignment for the solitude. After 10 years on the job and 2 failed relationships, I'd grown to appreciate silence. Yellowstone was big enough to hide in, and the North Lookout Post, 5 miles from the nearest trailhead, was my fortress of solitude. I could go days without seeing another person. That suited me just fine. The cabin itself was nothing special. 1 room, a wood stove, a cracked radio that only worked when it felt like it. But the view was unbeatable. Endless forest, winding rivers, jagged peaks clawing at the horizon. From my perch, I could see the world without being seen. That comforted me. Then the disappearances started. 3 hikers in 2 weeks. All experienced, all following mapped trails. No gear left behind. No sign of struggle. Just gone. The locals whispered about bears. Dispatch floated the idea of illegal poachers. But I knew better. Bears don't steal boots. Poachers don't rip tents from the inside out. One morning, I found something at the base of my tower. A shoe, tied neatly, resting in a pile of what looked like dead moss. I kicked it over with the toe of my boot. Beneath it, no foot, no blood. Just a clean, dry sock. Like the owner had stepped out of it and vanished. I radioed it in. No response. I shrugged it off until the night I saw the thing watching me. It was around 2 a.m. I was half asleep, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the crackling wood stove. The air smelled like pine and soot. Then I heard it, creaking, like someone slowly stepping on the porch outside. I grabbed my flashlight and moved toward the door. There was no wind, no trees brushing the windows, just the slow, unmistakable sound of wood flexing under weight. I opened the door and shone my light. Nothing, just darkness and the skeletal outlines of trees. Then I saw them, eyes, low to the ground, reflecting amber in the beam. Not animal eyes, too far apart. They blinked, once, then vanished. I shut the door, bolted it, and tried the radio again. Still dead. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I found claw marks on the edge of the window frame. Not deep, but deliberate. Long parallel, like something testing the wood. Testing me. I convinced myself it was a raccoon. Maybe a mountain lion. I'd seen weirder. 3 nights later, I stopped pretending. It was just after midnight. I was outside, chopping kindling under the moonlight. A low fog clung to the treetops, and everything smelled damp. That's when I heard the scream. Not human, not quite animal either. A long, high-pitched wail that rose and fell like a siren. It came from somewhere near the creek. I froze, axe halfway to the stump. Then it repeated, closer. I ran inside, locked the door, and turned off every light. Then silence. For a long time, I sat in the dark, listening to nothing. My eyes adjusted. I glanced out the window and saw movement. Something tall, slender, pale. It moved between the trees, almost gliding. I couldn't see its face, but its shape was all wrong. It bent at odd angles. Its arms were too long, dragging behind it, and it knew I was watching. I backed away from the window. It stepped into the clearing, and then it smiled. Not a person's smile. Wider. Too many teeth. Wrong places. That's when I realized it wasn't a mouth. It was a slit, opened vertically across where a human's face should be. I blinked, and it was gone. The scream came again, right outside. The next morning, I packed up to leave. Hiking down the trail with my sidearm drawn, I kept checking my surroundings. Every snapped twig set my nerves on edge. I didn't make it a mile before I saw the second shoe. Same model as the first. Left side this time. Sitting neatly atop a rock, like someone had placed it there for me to find. I picked up my pace. Then, maybe an hour later, I saw it again. Across the field, maybe 30 yards off, half hidden behind a boulder. Watching, not moving, just waiting. I turned, walked faster. It didn't follow. Not then. I reached my truck just before sundown. Started it. Radioed the main station. This time it worked. Copy, Ranger Price. The voice came through. We'll send backup to the tower in the morning. You sure you saw something? Yes, I said. Send someone armed. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in my truck with the headlights on, gun in my lap. Nothing came. No sounds. No movement. At dawn, I drove back to town and filed my report. No one believed me. 2 days later, a rescue team hiked up to the tower. They found the door wide open. The interior was shredded, like a bear had been trapped inside for hours. Claw marks up the walls, across the ceiling. But no blood. No fur, just the first shoe, the one I had found earlier, placed in the center of the floor, and written on the mirror in what looked like charcoal. Stay? I learned your shape. There are places on the map that don't really exist. I don't mean blank spots or top secret government bases. I mean places that show up in the system. Get assigned numbers, have maintenance logs, but no one actually goes there. Site 46 in Yosemite is one of them. I'd worked for the national park. Serviced for 9 years when I found the reference. A folder tucked behind old inspection reports in the ranger station's basement. Just a single sheet of paper, typed, dated almost 30 years ago. Site 46. Use suspended indefinitely. No patrol access. No overnight stay. No fire activity. Report all unregistered encounters. No exceptions. That was it. No map. No explanation. No signature. Nothing. Naturally, I asked around. Veteran rangers brushed it off. Lost trail, they'd say. Old landslide took it out. Or, you're chasing ghosts, rookie. But none of them looked me in the eye when they said it. And none of them ever said they'd actually been there. So I decided to go myself. I waited for my solo shift. 5 days at a northern checkpoint with no regular patrol overlap. The perfect chance to take a detour without anyone noticing. I used an old surveyor's map and triangulated. The last recorded location of Site 46. No trails. Just dense forest off Fire Road 12, past the ridge near Pine Hollow. I packed light, just a day bag. My radio, extra batteries. And a body camera I clipped to my chest. At first, the hike felt normal. Peaceful even. Just tall redwoods and dry wind. But 2 miles in, things started to feel off. First, the sound changed. No birds, no bugs, just wind. But it didn't move the trees. It was directionless, like static in your ears. I chalked it up to altitude. Then I found the marker. A wooden post, weather-worn, sticking maybe 3 feet out of the ground. No sign, no number, but the top had 4 crude slashes, like someone dug into it with a knife or claws. Behind it, a clearing, square, too perfect to be natural. flattened dirt. No grass, no leaves, no debris. In the center stood a single wooden picnic table, old and gray with rot. Its legs bent outward like it had melted under weight. One bench was missing. I stepped into the clearing. Instant nausea hit me, like a drop on a roller coaster, but with no motion. My stomach turned. My vision pulsed. I felt pressure in my ears, like I was underwater. Still, I kept going. I approached the table, scanning with my flashlight. That's when I saw it. On the tabletop, carved deep into the wood, layer after layer of frantic lines, were the words, "IT looks like me." Underneath, another message, "Don't trust your own voice." I backed up. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but the clearing was dead silent. Even the static was gone now. Then my radio buzzed. "Ranger Mitchell, this is Central. You there?" Relieved, I clicked the button. "Yeah, I'm here. Checking a trail blockage north of Pine Hollow. I'll update soon." There was a pause. Then the voice came back. My voice. "Copy that. You'll be dead before dark." I stared at the radio. My thumb slipped off the mic. What the hell? Then it repeated, my own voice, calm and emotionless. "You'll be dead before dark. You'll be dead before dark. You'll be." I ripped the battery out. Silence. My hands were shaking. I turned to leave the clearing and saw myself standing on the other side. Same ranger jacket, same boots, same hat, same body cam. But the face was wrong. It was smiling, not a grin, just a subtle, still, watching smile. Eyes too wide, skin pale like paper soaked in water. It tilted its head, studying me. Then it moved, not walking, just jerking forward and twitching, 2 fast steps. Like a puppet dragged on strings. I ran. Branches tore at my arms. I sprinted back the way I came. But the forest was wrong. Trails I knew were gone. Trees had shifted. The ground sloped in directions it shouldn't. I glanced back once. It was following, not running, just appearing between the trees, closer each time, moving with that same jerky rhythm, like it wasn't bound by space. Eventually, I found the ridge, climbed it half on instinct, half in panic. At the top, I collapsed against a boulder, lungs burning. The thing hadn't followed. Or maybe it had just stopped. The sun was going down. I turned on the body cam and recorded everything I saw. The clearing, the messages, the mimic, the voice. Then I heard something behind me. Footsteps. But this time, human. A ranger. Real. He was older, weathered, serious. Badge said Tanner. Said he worked Yosemite 20 years back. Said he'd heard my call over the secondary emergency band. I didn't ask why he was out there. I was too grateful to care. He helped me hike back down to the trailhead in silence. Every now and then, I'd look back and think I saw something in the trees. But he kept pushing me forward. When we reached my outpost cabin, he handed me a sealed envelope and said, "If you don't want it to follow you, burn this before midnight, and never speak of Site 46 again." Then he walked off into the dark. I never saw him again. Inside the envelope was my own report, typed. Every word I said into the camera, every sentence, every frame, including the last part one never recorded. It's already inside the cabin. It was supposed to be just another peaceful weekend camping trip. 6 of us, 1 fire, deep in the forest, miles from the nearest town. As the fire crackled and the night grew colder, one of us said, "Let's tell the scariest thing that ever happened to us while camping." One by one, we shared stories, each more terrifying than the last. Some were real, some were not so sure, but none of us slept that night. Here are those 6 stories, told around a dying fire in the heart of the woods. You're welcome to listen, but just remember, some things shouldn't be spoken out loud. They said the pines in Black Hollow Forest whispered to each other when no one was around. That's the kind of story you'd hear from old people in dying towns, where folklore is the only thing that outlives them. Elena never believed in that stuff. She was an engineer, grounded in facts, not feelings. So when her old college group suggested a camping trip deep in Black Hollow, she didn't flinch. She needed the break from the noise of the city, from the burnout, from everything. There were 4 of them: Elena, Marcus, Josh, and Priya. They hadn't seen each other since graduation. Jobs, cities, relationships, life pulled them apart. But for one long weekend, they were together again, carrying tents and beer into a part of the world where the signal died and the trees grew so tall you forgot the sky. Place gives me Blair Witch vibes, Josh muttered as they set up camp. Shut up, man, Priya laughed. But there was a flicker of something nervous in her eyes. The first night was nothing special. A fire, a bottle passed around. Stories they'd already heard 3 times before. But around 3 a.m., Elena woke up to something she couldn't explain. A whistle. Not a bird, not the wind, a man's whistle. 3 notes. Slow. Pause. Then again. She sat upright, ears straining in the pitch black. Her heart pounded in a way she didn't like. She waited for a laugh. For Josh to yell, "Gotcha!" Nothing. She unzipped the tent, her flashlight shaking slightly in her grip. The woods were motionless. Cold. Black. The whistle came again, but this time it wasn't far. Maybe 20 feet away. Still 3 notes. Same rhythm, but it wasn't moving closer. Just repeating. Elena ducked back inside. She told herself it was a weird echo. Maybe some strange acoustic quirk of the pines. By morning, she didn't mention it. Maybe she dreamt it. But that night, Marcus heard it too. He woke her with a hand on her shoulder. "Elena, wake up. Listen." She knew before she even opened her eyes. The whistle. 3 notes. Slow. Calm. Mocking. They both crept outside, waking Josh and Priya. "What the hell is that?" Josh whispered, the bottle of rum still in his hand. "No one's playing a joke?" Marcus asked. "I thought it was one of you." The 4 of them stood in a circle with their lights out, listening. It came from the east, near a line of pine trees that looked like cathedral pillars in the dark. 3 notes. Then silence. "I'm done," Priya said. "We're leaving in the morning." They all agreed. But morning never came the way they expected. At sunrise, Josh was gone. His tent was open. His boots missing. His phone, too. But no note. No tracks. No signs of struggle. Just gone. "We should search," Marcus said, pacing. Maybe he went to take a leak and got lost. Priya was already packing her gear. No more waiting. Something's wrong. That's when Marcus found it, hanging from the lowest pine. Branch about 30 feet away. Josh's hat, torn at the brim. Stained. No blood. No body. Just the hat. And the whistle again. This time, it came during daylight. Fainter now. More distant. They panicked, packed too quickly, dropped things, left food behind. But the trail they came on, it was gone. Just trees. Dense, unmoving trees. Elena checked the GPS. No signal. The compass spun in lazy circles. "We're not lost," Marcus insisted. But they were. Hours passed. The sun dipped low again. And that night, they heard more than just whistling. They heard Josh's voice. "Guys, over here, help." It was faint, like a whisper through the pines. Priya screamed. Marcus ran toward it. Elena held him back. "That's not Josh." He looked at her, confused, angry. "Elena, he's alive. You heard him." But her voice cracked when she said it. "No, I didn't. That's not him. That's something using his voice." They didn't sleep. They sat in a terrified circle with their backs to each other. Flashlights dying, breath fogging in the cold. At 4:12 a.m., Priya stood up. "Elena, Marcus." Her voice was flat, robotic. "I think I know the way out." Elena blinked. Priya was facing away from them. She wasn't moving. "Priya?" Marcus asked. Silence. Then that damn whistle. From her mouth. 3 notes. Calm. Slow. She turned around. Her eyes were empty. "I saw it," she said. "In the trees." She walked into the dark and disappeared. No running. No scream. Just gone. By sunrise, Marcus was broken. Rocking. Mute. Elena tried dragging him. He wouldn't budge. He kept mumbling. "It's watching us." Through the bark. She left him to find help. It was 2 more days before she made it to a ranger station, dehydrated. Scratched, barefoot. They sent a team. They found nothing. No tents. No Marcus. No sign anyone had ever camped there. Just a torn hat, hanging on a pine branch. The ranger who pulled it down said something strange. "These trees," he whispered, "they're older than we are. They remember things. Sometimes they echo." Elena never went back. But sometimes, when she can't sleep, she swears she hears that whistle outside her. Apartment window, 3 notes. Slow. Familiar. Nobody warned them about Devil's Cradle. It sounded like a joke at first, just a creepy name for an old campground in Tennessee. "It's just branding." Connor laughed when he booked it. Back in the day, it was a coal pit. Some PR person probably thought it sounded edgy. But locals didn't laugh when they heard the name. The woman at the gas station stopped smiling the second she saw the permit tag on their windshield. "You camping out there?" she asked slowly. "Yeah," said Ava. "Why?" She stared for a long second, then bagged their chips without answering. They should have turned around. But they didn't. There were 5 of them. Ava, her boyfriend Connor, her cousin Ellie, and 2 friends from work, Malcolm and Jude. They were all in their late 20s, well off, bored. City kids looking for a break. Devil's Cradle was cheap and remote, and none of them were superstitious. The only warning sign was how quiet the forest was. No birds, no animals, just the wind and the occasional low crackle like distant firewood. But they set up camp, built a fire, drank beer, and laughed anyway. Until the smoke appeared. It was around 2:30 a.m. when Ellie noticed it first. "Hey, do you guys smell that?" Ava sniffed the air. "Our fire." "No, there's another one." She pointed into the trees. Sure enough, a thin white column of smoke was rising in the distance. Maybe 200 yards away, just behind a ridge. They fell silent. I thought we were the only ones with a permit this weekend, Malcolm said. We are, Connor replied. Jude leaned forward. Maybe someone's camping illegally. They debated for a few minutes, whether to check it out or not. In the end, curiosity won. They grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the ridge, leaves crunching under their boots. As they got closer, something felt off. There was no glow of a fire, just smoke, thick, hanging in the trees like fog. And there was a smell, not burning wood, something sweeter, like incense or old herbs. It made Ava dizzy. Guys, she said quietly, we shouldn't be here. And that's when they heard it, chanting, low, inhuman, like dozens of voices humming beneath the earth. It was coming from the smoke. They turned back, ran down the ridge, stumbled into camp. Malcolm was panicking. That wasn't a campfire. That wasn't normal. Connor tried to stay calm. Maybe it's an old ceremony site. Locals doing rituals. Ava looked at him. In the middle of federal land? At 3 a.m.? No lights? No talking. No one slept that night. By dawn, the smoke was gone. So was Jude. His tent was zipped up from the inside. His backpack was there. His shoes were gone. But something else was inside his tent. A pile of ash, neatly shaped, like it had been poured in through the roof. No tracks, no footprints, just that powder, and a symbol drawn into the dirt behind the tent. A spiral. When they called 911, the signal died halfway through the call. That's when Ellie started crying. We need to leave. Now. We can't stay here. They grabbed their things, except Jude's. He was already gone. But the trail was not the same. The forest felt thicker, angrier. The path they came in on twisted the wrong direction. The trees leaned too close. By noon, they realized they were walking in circles. Then, at exactly 3 p.m., the smoke returned. Straight ahead. Connor froze. No. Hell no. We're not going near it. But Malcolm was already walking toward it. Like he was pulled. Elle. Ava shouted, running after him. But when she caught up, he turned and looked at her with eyes she didn't recognize. They're waiting, he whispered. I can hear them. They said I belong. Then he stepped into the smoke and vanished. He didn't scream, didn't run, just walked in and disappeared. Ava tried to follow, but Ellie tackled her to the ground. No, it wants us to follow. Don't follow the smoke. They crawled away, terrified, shaking, and as they turned one last time to look, the smoke formed a face, mouth open, eyes bleeding, whispering. That night, they built no fire. The temperature dropped to 3 degrees Celsius, but they didn't dare burn wood. They stayed in the dark, huddled together, listening. The smoke came again, but this time, it circled the camp. Like a predator. Ellie cried through most of the night. Connor sat silently, gripping a knife he never used. At 4:40 a.m., the chanting started again. This time, it said names. Their names. Connor, Ava, Ellie. By dawn, Connor was gone too. No sign of a struggle, but something new was left behind. A crude doll, made of twine and bone, laying where he had slept. Ellie was too far gone to speak. Ava packed their bags, dragged Ellie up, and they walked without a compass. Without a phone, without direction. She only knew one thing. Don't follow the smoke. They walked for what felt like days. Then, they heard it. A truck engine. A real one. They ran. Screamed. The ranger found them both near the access road, covered in bruises, starving, dehydrated. Only Ava could talk. Ellie was catatonic. They told their story. The ranger didn't ask questions, just nodded slowly and said, "You went into Devil's Cradle, huh?" Ava asked what was out there. The ranger lit a cigarette. No one's supposed to camp there. Government shut it down in '93. Found a whole group of people, burned alive, all sitting in a circle. No fire pit, just ash, and a spiral. Then why did the permit website let us book it? He frowned. It doesn't. Hasn't been listed in over 20 years. Ava still sees smoke in her dreams. Sometimes she smells that sweet, cloying incense in random places, like an alley or a stairwell. Sometimes she hears the chanting. She doesn't follow. She never will. They were documenting the disappearance of another group when they vanished themselves. That's what the sheriff's report said. Dry, clinical, confused. 3 documentary filmmakers, last seen in the Bitter Creek wilderness. 1 tent found, half collapsed. No gear, no blood, no signs of foul play, just a camera with half a battery and 73 minutes of footage. The film was never released to the public, but the sheriff's nephew, working night shift at the evidence room, made a copy, and for $100 in cash and a 6-pack of beer, he handed that copy to my brother. That's how I saw what happened to Amy, Rishi, and Dana. The footage starts clean. A van on a dirt road, windows down. Dana's driving, chewing sunflower seeds. Amy holds the camera steady from the passenger seat, narrating. Day 1. We're headed into Bitter Creek to investigate the 2019 disappearances. 3 hikers went missing off trail. Their phones were found with full batteries and 0 footage. Nothing posted. No last messages. Just like they vanished. Creepy, Rishi says from the back seat. Why do we do this again? For views, Dana says, grinning. They reach the trailhead by sunset. Camp that night is casual, setting up tents, testing their mics, laughing over dehydrated food. But at 2:17 a.m., the tone shifts. A light, far off in the trees. Dana wakes first, pulls out her phone. Do you guys see that? The camera pans, a flicker between trees. Bright white, steady, like a lantern floating 6 feet off the ground. Amy whispers, that wasn't there earlier, right? Could be another camper. Rishi offers, half awake. But none of them say what they're really thinking. They are alone. They checked. They were the only car at the trailhead. Dana zooms in. The light dims, then flashes once, twice, 3 times, and vanishes. They stay up all night. Nothing else happens. Day 2. The camera glitches once during breakfast. A flicker, like old VHS tracking, then stabilizes. Amy notes it aloud. Weird. This is digital. They hike deeper, following the route the hikers were last seen on. They reach a narrow bend beside a ravine. Tall, dead trees. Silence. Amy pauses. There's no wind, she says. No birds. No bugs. No sound at all. And then the camera picks up something faint, a low tone. Almost mechanical, like a hum vibrating through the trees. They look around, disoriented, and then their phones all buzz at once. No signal. They laugh nervously, thinking it's just the area. They keep going. Around 4 p.m., they stop to film interviews near a rock formation shaped like a spine. Dana jokes that it looks like a rib cage. The tone hums again, louder this time. The camera glitches a second time. Rishi throws up without warning. "What the hell?" Amy asks, rushing over. "I don't know," he pants. "Just nausea." Instant. They decide to head back, but the trail is gone. That's when they realize they've been walking in the wrong direction for hours. Trees that weren't there before. No sunlight. No compass readings. Amy panics. She checks her watch. It says 7:09 p.m. Rishi's says 4:46 p.m. Dana's 3:13 p.m. Their phones are frozen. Still no signal. Amy starts crying. Dana tries to call 911 anyway. The call connects. Just static. Then a voice. Not a dispatcher. Not a person. Just a voice whispering. "Where are you going?" That night, the lantern appears again. Closer. Hovering. Still. This time, it begins to drift sideways. Not walking, not flying. Just sliding. Amy films. Zooms in. There's no body. No person. Just the light. Then, one by one, their devices shut down. First Dana's phone. Then Rishi's mic. Then the external audio recorder. The camera keeps filming. Amy says something chilling. "I don't think it wants to be recorded." Day 3. They are exhausted. Amy's face is bruised. Says she fell in her sleep. Dana has scratches down her back. Rishi's nose won't stop bleeding. They haven't eaten. Amy turns the camera to herself. Her voice cracks. "Something is wrong with time here. We're stuck. We walk in circles. The air feels thick, like static. And at night, we hear people talking, laughing, but no one's there." She looks off screen, then whispers, "I think something is copying us." Later footage shows them walking, but another group is seen behind the trees. Same clothes, same faces, but walking opposite. The camera glitches hard, freezes, restarts. Rishi is gone. No one saw him vanish. They call out, "Search." Then the audio picks up whispering, "You're the ones who watched. Now you're part of it." They run. The footage shakes violently. Amy is screaming. Dana falls and drags her leg. They don't stop. Even when the light appears again, this time pulsing, like a heartbeat. Final 10 minutes of footage. Amy is filming herself, breathing hard, crying. Dana is curled against a tree, not speaking, not blinking. Amy whispers, "We're not going to make it. This place isn't real. Or we're not real anymore. I can't tell." Behind her, the trees shift, like they're breathing, and the light moves in from the right side. Amy looks into the lens. "If someone finds this, don't come here. Don't film it. Don't look for us. Just burn this." She puts the camera down, walks into the trees, never looks back. The last frame is static, then black. The police never found the camera crew. The tape was dismissed as a hoax, buried in unsolved case files. Bitter Creek was closed permanently, but sometimes hikers still report a floating light deep in the trees. And when their devices die and their voices vanish, no one ever hears from them again. We arrived at Pinewick on a quiet Friday afternoon. Only 2 other tents had been pitched, one near the lake and another, deep in the trees, marked Tent 3 in red paint on the front flap. Nobody saw who set it up. Must have arrived early, my girlfriend Cassie said, shrugging. We chose a spot near the trailhead, unpacked and relaxed. Everything seemed normal until night fell. That's when the noises began. Low shuffling, like someone pacing in gravel. I stepped out with a flashlight, scanning the tree line. No movement, but I heard it again, closer now. Crunch, drag, crunch, drag. Cassie stayed in the tent, clutching the zipper. I spotted footprints in the dirt. Bare, long. They stopped just outside our campfire ring. The next morning, the prints were gone, like wind or hands had swept them away. Saturday afternoon, we passed Tent 3 on the way to the lake. Still zipped. No sign of anyone. Out of curiosity, I called out, "Hey, you good in there?" No response. Cassie whispered, "That tent gives me the creeps." We joked about it later. Maybe a loner camper or someone high off their mind. But neither of us laughed that night, because at 1:36 a.m., someone knocked on our tent. Not lightly. For knocks. Slow. Deliberate. I unzipped and pointed my flashlight out. Nothing. Just silence and pine. I yelled, "Who's there?" Nothing. Cassie refused to sleep after that. I stayed up with a knife in hand. At sunrise, I walked straight to Tent 3. Zipped. Still. But now it reeked. Like rotten meat and wet fur. I circled it. No shadows inside. I called out again. Nothing. But this time, a voice answered. Muffled. Childlike. "You can't leave now." I froze. Then it laughed. Slow. Raspy wrong. I backed away. By the time I got Cassie and returned with the ranger, Tent 3 was gone. No footprints. No smell. Just flat pine needles where it once stood. The ranger looked pale. "You're lucky." I asked, what the hell was in there? He said nothing, but after a pause, he muttered, "Don't engage with the quiet tents." We left immediately. Weeks later, I looked up Pinewick online. A Reddit thread popped up. "Anyone ever see Tent 3? Smells awful. No one inside. Someone always knocks at night." Another user replied, "My brother went missing from that campground in 2019. All we found was a flattened patch of pine needles and a tent stake shaped like a tooth." I haven't camped since, but sometimes at night, when everything's quiet, I hear 4 knocks at the door. Slow, deliberate, always at 1:36 a.m., and I never answer. The ranger warned me before I hiked in. "Bring your own firewood," he said. "Don't collect it here." I laughed it off. It sounded like superstition, some forest preservation thing. But I forgot to pack extra. By nightfall, my fire was dying and the cold crept in fast. So I wandered out. The woods around Timber Jaw were dense, silent. I found a pile of old branches not far from camp, dry, stacked oddly in a perfect pyramid. Almost too perfect. Still, I was freezing. I carried the wood back and lit it. The fire roared back to life. Warmth spread fast. And then came the screaming. Not from the woods, from the fire itself. It was faint at first, like a voice buried in the crackle. "Stop!" I froze. A branch snapped deep in the dark. "Help, it hurts." I stood up. The fire was still burning, normal looking, too normal. The flames didn't flicker like usual. They moved like they were breathing. Then I saw it. A face. Brief. Twisting inside the fire, mouth open in agony. I kicked dirt on the flames. It hissed violently and died down, leaving the air thick with the smell of burnt hair. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went back to where I found the wood. It was gone, but something else was there now. A pair of boots. Old, charred, lying neatly on the forest floor. I backed away. Then I heard breathing behind me. Slow, raspy. I turned. Nothing. When I got back to camp, my tent had been unzipped. Inside was a piece of firewood, but it was wet, sticky, and wrapped in cloth. A shirt sleeve with something inside. I unwrapped it. A molar. Human. Still bleeding. I ran. Didn't pack. Didn't look back. Made it to the trailhead in 3 hours. I found the ranger sitting on the porch, sipping coffee. He didn't look surprised. "You burned it, didn't you?" he asked. What the hell was that? I snapped. He just sighed. "That's why we tell people not to collect wood here. Some of it ain't from trees." He stood, walked inside, and came back with a small wooden box. Inside were teeth. Dozens of them. Burned. Cracked. Blackened. "Fire remembers pain," he said. "And sometimes it screams it back." It's been a year. I don't go near campgrounds anymore. But sometimes, when I light a candle at home, the flame shifts sideways, like it's watching me. And in the hiss of the match, I hear the faintest voice. "Help, it still hurts." We arrived at Elk Ridge late, just before sunset. The only other camper waved as we passed, a middle-aged guy in a flannel, grilling fish. His tent was red. Ours was navy. That was it. Just the two of us and him. Or so we thought. By morning, there was a third tent. Tan. Large. Ugly. Set up across the creek, maybe 50 feet from ours. Cassie and I looked at each other, confused. "I didn't hear anyone arrive last night, did you?" I asked. She shook her head. No car. No voices. Nothing. We called out toward it. No answer. The flap was zipped shut. Maybe someone showed up late, hiked in. That happens, right? Still, something about it felt wrong. Like it didn't belong to this world. Like it had appeared rather than arrived. By afternoon, the other camper, the guy in the red tent, was gone. Not just his gear. His tent, too. No flattened grass. No ashes. No tire tracks. Like he'd been erased. Only the third tent remained. Still zipped. Still silent. We debated leaving, but curiosity is a disease. Around dusk, I crossed the creek and approached it. "Hello," I called. No reply. I placed a hand on the fabric. It was ice cold. The temperature had dropped around it. Then, something moved inside. A shift, like weight sliding across a tarp. I backed up fast. That night, we built no fire. Just sat in our tent, whispering. At 2:11 a.m., Cassie shook me awake. Someone's outside. We listened. Footsteps circled our tent. Slow. Heavy. Breathing we didn't recognize. I whispered, "Who's there?" A voice answered from inches away. Wrong question. At dawn, the third tent was right beside ours. Close enough to touch. Cassie screamed. We packed in minutes and ran down the trail. 3 miles in, we stopped for breath and found the tent again, set up on the path. Cassie lost it. She hurled a rock at it, screaming. The rock passed through it, like mist. That's when it unzipped. But there was nothing inside, just dark, an unnatural, solid black, like a hole in space. From that hole, a sound leaked out. Not wind, not speech, a recording. Cassie's voice, crying from the night before. Someone's outside. Then mine. "Who's there?" Then the other voice again. Wrong question. We ran. We didn't stop. We never found our car. Just trees. And the tent. Always the tent. Now, I sleep in hotels. Never outdoors. Never near canvas. But every so often, I wake to a whisper from the corner of the room. Wrong question. And in the shadows, I see the shape of a tent, unzipping itself.